This is the AGO T from Tenways, and it's a Dutch-style commuter that includes some premium tech, like a Gates carbon belt and an Eviolo CVT. We expected a premium feel to go along with those things, so did this bike ride as good as it looks? Let's take a ride and find out. Hey friends, welcome to Electric Bike Report. My name is John. If this is your first time watching one of our reviews, we are known for our extremely in-depth testing and high-quality content. So make sure you're subscribed and you hit that bell icon so you can see every one of our new videos. And one last thing before we dive in, we're only able to do what we do with your support. So if you find this review helpful and you want to pick up an AGO T for yourself, please make sure you use our affiliate link down in the video description. It will not cost you anything extra. But now for the good stuff, there are some really huge benefits of the AGO T's belt drive and that continuously variable transmission. This system is extremely easy to use, it's super low maintenance, and it's really smooth and quiet. So the CVT is a sealed unit that adjusts the resistance on the pedals, so instead of shifting between a set number of gears, you can perfectly dial in the feel of the ride by just twisting part of the right handlebar grip. There's a tension indicator on the handlebar with a little diagram of a cyclist to help you understand if you're adding resistance or making the ride easier, and I think it's pretty intuitive and easy to pick up. The system also has no gears or no exposed parts, so you don't have to worry about cleaning, lubrication, or wear, except on the Gates carbon belt itself, but that's rated to last at least twice as long as a chain, so you'll be able to get thousands of miles out of it before it'll need replaced. This system is not something that you'll find on too many bikes out there, but another thing that makes the AGO T unique is the signature design style of Tenways. Looks are subjective, of course, but every bike from this brand looks really classy and clean, so if you want something that stands out visually, I think this is definitely going to turn some heads. Let's run through the bike's spec sheet so we can get into its test results. First things first, the AGO T has a 250 watt Bafeng M420 mid-drive motor with a torque sensor. It's powered by a fully integrated but removable 504 watt-hour battery in the down tube. The bike has a Tektro T275 hydraulic disc brake system with 2 piston calipers and 160 millimeter rotors. It has 28 inch by 2 inch or 700C by 48 millimeter CST street tires with puncture protection and a Zoom 188 NS suspension fork with 65 millimeters of travel. The saddle is made by Cell Royal. There's a cargo rack that can hold up to 55 pounds. The bike comes with front and rear fenders, a chain guard or belt guard, and then there's an integrated dual LED headlight and a tail light on the rack. Riders can tweak the bike's fit with the adjustable stem that has 80 degrees of rotation. The Dutch-style handlebars are 710 millimeters wide with ergonomic rubber grips. The bike's control panel is on the left handlebar, there's a bell on the right next to the Eviolo twist shifter, and then there's a centrally mounted color display. The bike pairs with the Tenways app, which will automatically track your rides as long as you have it open and connected, and you can use it to get turn-by-turn navigation. The app claims to have some security features that look promising, but I couldn't actually find them, so it's possible that they will be added in a future update. And then to wrap things up, the AGO T weighs just over 68 pounds with its battery installed. At the time of filming, it's not UL certified, but our contact said that that's in progress. This is a Class 1 e-bike with pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour, and it comes in 3 color options. We have jungle green, but there's also pearl white and midnight black. If I missed anything, you can check out the bike's webpage or our written review with the links in the video description. But let's move on and see how the AGO T performed in our testing and how it stacks up against other commuter e-bikes we've tested. Starting things off with our brake test, where we measured the performance of the AGO T's Tektro hydraulic disc brakes. We pedaled the bike up to 20 miles per hour, hit the brakes, and then measured how far it took to stop. The bike's average after 3 tests was 23 feet even, which is a very solid result. The current average for other commuters we've tested with hydraulic disc brake systems is 22 feet even, so the AGO T was a little slower than average, but not by much, and I'd say the feel of the brakes matched the bike's performance pretty well. I noticed that the bike could skate a little if I really clamped down on the levers, which I attribute to the fairly smooth street tires, so that might have affected the bike's results a little, but it's definitely nothing unusual. Overall, I thought the brakes worked well and seemed to be a very good balance for the max speed of 20 miles per hour. Next up is our speed test, and for this one I took the AGO T out to the bike paths to see how fast it could go in each pedal assist setting. Let's see how it did, and we can analyze the results back here in the studio. All right, let's do a speed test on the Tenways AGO T, starting off with no pedal assist, around 9.5 miles per hour here. With a very casual pace, I'm gonna keep it pretty light in this test because it is really easy to get up to pretty high speeds on this bike. And the goal of our test is to see what difference the assist levels make. So let's go up to PAS 1. So there's quite a bit of power right away. That motor's really quiet, but it's doing a lot. I'm gonna adjust the tension on the CVT here. There's no gears, so just sort of like tightening and loosening the resistance on the pedals. And we're going around 11.5 miles per hour here in PAS 1 with about that same level of effort. We'll go up to PAS 2. Tighten things up a little bit more. Feels pretty similar. I mean, honestly, pedaling is just a breeze. I'm taking it very easy and getting some good speed. Going around 13.5, 14 miles per hour. Yep, all right, let's go up to PAS 3. And I'm gonna tighten things up some more. Actually, I'm all the way up at the max at this point. Going around 16 miles per hour. Maybe 16.5, yep. Actually up towards 17. All right, let's go up to PAS 4. I'm feeling super easy, very relaxing, very comfortable. 18.5 miles per hour here in PAS 4. Maybe up towards 19. Yeah, all right. And then we'll finish things off in PAS 5. I'm gonna have to pedal a little bit faster here, just the range of tension on the CVT's kind of run out, so gotta move my feet a little bit more, but I'm not really applying any extra pressure. And so, yeah, getting up to 20 miles an hour and a little above. So we'll call that our speed test, and let's go chat a little bit more back at the studio. So I want to expand on a couple things I said there. First, it was important that I kept a consistent level of effort because of this bike's torque sensor. Pedaling harder or softer would have changed the results and skewed the data, and I wanted to avoid that. Second, this bike could be super fast because of that torque sensor, so if I pedaled hard even in the lowest assist level, I could get pretty close to its max speed of 20 miles per hour if I wanted, but that wasn't the goal of the test. So with a pretty relaxed level of effort, I went 9.6 miles per hour with no pedal assist, and then running through the speeds I measured with each of the 5 settings, I hit 11.6 miles per hour in PAS 1, 14.1 in PAS 2, 16.9 in PAS 3, 18.8 in PAS 4, and 20.2 miles per hour in PAS 5. If we look at this data on a graph, it shows a fantastic distribution of power levels where the differences between each setting are nice and even, and that helps each of them to feel distinct. Of course, the bike's speed will vary based on your pedaling and the terrain you're riding over, but generally speaking, this is exactly what we like to see. In my experience, this bike is really well suited to an easy, casual riding style, and at least on flat ground, it really doesn't make you work hard at all. The ride felt really natural and responsive with that torque sensor, so I've got to give the AGO T 2 solid thumbs up in this test. In our third test, we measured the bike's range, and we tested it by riding in both PAS 5 and PAS 1 until its battery was empty. Our results showed that it should be possible to go between 26 and 61.5 miles on a single charge, so Tenways' advertised range of up to 62 miles was right on the money. Compared to other commuters with mid-drive motors, the AGO T's results were a little below average, and there are a few things to consider with that, but overall the bike did a pretty solid job. First, the motor seemed to draw more power than we expected. Based on the motor and battery specs, we estimated we'd get about 30 more minutes and 10 more miles from the battery in our PAS5 test than we actually did, but I think that makes sense considering how peppy the bike felt even in PAS1. Second, the motor has a power saving mode that didn't actually let us use the whole charge. Most bikes tend to have a noticeable drop in power as the battery charge gets depleted, but that seemed to be a little bit more pronounced here than usual. We noticed once the battery reached about 10%, there really wasn't any noticeable power coming from the motor, so we called it quits there. We'd have probably gotten used to that with time, but it did feel a little bit misleading, so we encouraged Tenways to either show 0% at that point, or allow the battery to hit 0 so riders could get a few more miles from it. But that last point I want to make about our results is that 62 miles is nothing to sneeze at, so there's plenty of potential to get a few days of riding from a single charge, even if you have a fairly long commute. And if you live in a hilly area where you need the full power, 26 miles will still likely cover one round trip. In our final test, we measured the AGO T's hill climbing power by pedaling up a super steep path called Hellhole Trail using PAS5. This test course is a third of a mile long and it has an average grade of 12%, which is tough enough that most riders would probably hop off and walk with an analog bike. Our tester Justin recorded his experience, so let's see what happened in this test.
Okay, here we are on the Tenways AGO T, doing the pedal hill test at Hellhole, and right out of the gate I'll say the word I'd use to describe this bike is just smooth. A very smooth engagement, so let's see how it climbs. Down to about 8 right now through here. I'm trying to keep my cadence my cadence good. The power that I'm putting in, not too much. I could go faster given some mid-drive, but try to keep it all consistent. So through that first hill section, down to 6.8, 7.0, so not too bad. Again, that just feels smooth. Motor-wise, there's a little whine to it, but the engagement is really nice, especially with the Eviolo shifter, where easily shift under tension here, which is really nice for hill climbing. Let you listen through this section. So you hear there, as my cadence picks up, you do kind of hear the whine a little bit more. But I don't think it's going to be like at the top of the charge for hill climbing, but this is a really smooth climber. Breathing a little bit. I could have taken it actually a little bit easier and than I did. But again, I'm trying to keep it consistent against the other bikes. What's up, buddy? And overall, yeah, not gonna be a hill charger, but it's just smooth. Easy to climb up. Definitely can get up something like Hellhole. So let's go check the results and see how it did.
Justin was able to finish the test successfully in 2 minutes and 1 second with an average speed of 9 miles per hour. By the numbers, that's relatively slow when compared to other e-bikes with 250 watt mid-drives, but let's keep in mind that this hill is a monster, and we consider any bike that can reach the top to be successful. The main contributing factor in this case is that the AGO T's motor does not peak above 250 watts. That amount of output doesn't go super far, but it is enough to make the job significantly easier. I think it also fits the theme of the bike pretty well. The AGO T isn't made to be a powerhouse, it's made to feel and ride a lot like a regular bike, just faster and easier, and I think it pulls that off really well. In my own time on the bike, I tested it at a secondary location closer to the office, and while it generally felt good, I noticed the motor output seemed somewhat inconsistent, like it was hesitating at times. We worked with the Bafeng team to do a software update to smooth things out, but still noticed some problems afterward, so hopefully Tenways and Bafeng can get that straightened out. And if you already own an AGO T, please let us know down in the comments if you have had the same issue. Otherwise, I agree with what Justin said. Obviously, he had to work a little in that test, but ultimately you're not going to have any problems when it comes to climbing hills. We've gone through all the AGO T's measurable test results, and now it's time for something a little bit more subjective. Let's go back out one last time, talk about some of the major ride quality factors, and hopefully give you a better sense of what this bike is like to ride. All right, let's talk about ride quality on the AGO T. This is a Dutch-style commuter, so has these curved, swept-back handlebars and a pretty upright riding position, although that'll vary a little bit depending on where you have things set. There's a single frame size here that fits riders from 5'3" up to 6'5", and there's a couple points of adjustment. There's about 5 inches of adjustment in your saddle height with the seat post, and then with an adjustable stem, you can loosen that up with some Allen wrenches, and you have about 80 degrees of rotation there to change your handlebar height and your reach, which will then affect your riding position a little bit. There's a suspension fork up front made by Zoom with about 65 millimeters of travel, so that helps to smooth things out when you're riding, but then the wheel size helps a little bit with that as well. The tires are 700C by 48 millimeter, and with that wheel size, going over bumps is a little bit more comfortable than you'd experience with something a little bit smaller. And then the width, which is about 2 inches wide, gives you good stability. Plus, you get good traction on paved surfaces with the street tread pattern. And then finally, we'll wrap things up with the motor. That is the Bafeng M420. So that is a 250 watt mid-drive motor with, I believe, about 85 newton meters of torque. And that, of course, has a torque sensor. So as you pedal harder or softer, the motor is able to adapt its output to match. But that wraps it up here. Let's go back to the studio and chat a little bit more. I think the motor and the CVT are some of the biggest elements to focus on. The overall experience was really breezy and relaxing, even with some of the little hiccups in motor output I mentioned earlier. Pedaling felt really smooth and responsive, and the whole thing was pretty quiet. That's not something I normally think about a lot, but not having a lot of clunks and hums made me appreciate their absence, if that makes sense. I really like not being locked down to 7 or 8 gears though. The CVT here was a lot more flexible, and it let me find just the right amount of resistance. I think I'd have liked a bit of a wider range of resistance levels for higher speeds, but overall this setup worked pretty well for a Class 1. I thought the bike was generally comfortable. I liked that I could adjust the handlebar position with the adjustable stem, although I wasn't the biggest fan of the saddle after about an hour. And I forgot to mention that the bike does include a suspension seat post, so that's a huge plus, and it did make a difference when I was riding over bumps on the bike path. But otherwise, the AGO T is a Dutch-style commuter through and through, and I think it definitely delivered a unique, modern take on that kind of design. At this point, we've tested all 4 of Tenways' current lineup of e-bikes. I've tested 3 of those myself, and I think it's really clear that they're heading in the right direction. To circle back to my initial question, I think the AGO T does ride as good as it looks, even if there are a couple of areas that could be improved in the future. This bike did a solid job in each of our tests with great power distribution, the ability to cover lots of miles, reliable stopping power, and enough power to make a big difference on hills. It's easy to use, it's comfortable to ride, and of course, it looks great too. I'd like to see Tenways work with Bafeng to smooth out the inconsistencies in motor output and either improve the accuracy of the battery readout or adjust the programming to give you power until the readout hits 0. But otherwise, I think there's a lot to appreciate if you're looking for a style-in ride to get to work or school on a daily basis. And I think this would also be a solid fit for a leisure bike to take out in the evenings and weekends. There's also a lot of potential for senior riders as well, thanks to the step-thru frame. Once again, if you want more info on this bike or any of the other 3 Tenways offers, please check out the links to our written review and the Tenways website down in the video description. We really appreciate your support and interaction, so please be sure to like and subscribe, and let us know what you think about the AGO T down in the comments. Thanks for taking a ride with me today. Again, I'm John with Electric Bike Report, and this is the Tenways AGO T.